Julius and JD here. Welcome to the space in between. We've been kind of MIA.
Yeah, we have to apologize. The last few weeks have been quite hectic. I mean, more than usual, especially because the last couple weeks, our whole family has been fighting illness and we've all been sick. We just kept dropping like flies. So that kind of just put everything else, including the space in between, on hold.
Yeah.
But we're back and hopefully we can be a bit more consistent now.
Yeah, looking forward to coming into your screens and getting a chance to just share a few things, a few reflections. And today we want to have a few reflections on parenting. The last few months with kids at home has really given us a lot of tips on parenting or challenges on
No, I wouldn't call them tips, but anyways, it's given us time to reflect, and it's given us more time with our kids, which has its ups and downs. But I think in the big picture, it's good. Now, parenting is a huge topic, so obviously we'll talk about this more than once. Today, we just kind of wanted to focus on one aspect, the kind of balancing act, and this tension between how do you ensure that your kids know that you love them, unconditionally, but at the same time, they also grow up knowing that the world doesn't revolve around them.
Yeah, that's a trick one, because sometimes you want to, give your children everything. You want to give them the best, and that sometimes can be misconceived by the child.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents struggle in this because you want both. There is that tension. You don't want to raise a child that's going to be, not a good human being. That's going to be entitled. You want a child that's going to grow up to make a positive impact in their society.
Yes.
But at the same time, you want them to know that they have your full love and support. So it can be kind of tricky sometimes navigating that. I don't know if you've noticed with our kids or have any observations when it comes to that kind of balance.
No, I think the biggest challenge comes when you want to discipline them and at the same time remind them that the reason for your disciplining them is because you really, really love them and care for them.
Yeah, I think sometimes the problem comes when we separate that, because for me, what I've learned is discipline is actually part of love.
Yeah.
You discipline your child because you love them, because you want them to grow up with some morals and some kind of values that guide their life, and that's why you discipline them. So if you're doing it out of love, I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. But also I think it's a tricky thing for a lot of parents, depending on your background, where you're coming from, how you were raised up, what you've seen in the society, and there's a place where parents feel like they are not well equipped to either love properly or discipline properly. So they either take a sit back and just say, I'll just watch.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult for sure, depending on your background. If you don't have like a good parenting example that you can emulate, you didn't maybe grow up in a situation where you're like, I want to do that with my kids. Maybe you want to do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So that can be really tricky because you're trying to break a cycle.
Yeah, especially if you didn't have a good example. Like for me, I was more of a free-range child. Kind of raising kind of myself out there, and I know so much on how much I don't want to raise my kids.
Right.
But not knowing how much you don't want to raise them does not automatically give you how you want to raise them.
Exactly. It's really hard when you don't have like a reference point.
Yes.
But you're a wonderful father, so you've obviously found a way to break that cycle and to learn, okay, this is what's important to me. And I think one other thing that's really important if you're talking about how do your kids know that you love them unconditionally is time. I think it can be really tempting in our day and age to just give your child stuff, or send them to a nice school, or provide for all their needs, whatever. But the relationship part of it has become really tricky, and you find that parents give so much material-wise to their kids, but they don't actually spend a lot of quality time with their kids. And I think one of the biggest ways kids feel loved is by the time you spend with them. Like I know even and this is at every age, because we have boys 2, 6, and 9. And so the time we spend with each of them is different, obviously. But I can tell that when we take time and spend it with them one-on-one, it makes a huge difference. Even
And I
in
think
their
that's
behavior.
I think that's what really matters. I don't know any expert parent,
Right.
who says like, oh, I'm an expert in parenting.
No, it's one of those jobs that you get and you learn as you go.
Yeah. So I think what really matters is how the child perceives your parenting and how they know that you really care for them, you really love them, and you are interested in them.
Right.
But we have so many things going on in life. We have jobs, we have other pressures, but we really have to be very, very intentional to make sure that we are not just giving the best of ourselves to the rest of all these things, to these things, and giving just the rest of the time
What's left?
what is left to the.
No, I think it's like anything else, that if you value your parenting and you value raising good humans, then it's something that you have to make time for. And there's the tension. There's the tension of spending time, doing fun things, being interested, so your child knows that you love them, and also helping to raise them to be responsible. So there's the discipline side, giving them age-appropriate responsibilities, choices, consequences for their actions. Because if you don't do that, you're actually crippling them for the long run. I think sometimes as parents we can get sucked in, especially when our kids are small, to just that day or even that moment, because it can be so overwhelming. And your kid's screaming, they're having a temper tantrum, and you're just like, how do I make this stop? Like, what can I do to make this stop? And you can easily give in to whatever they want, but in the long run, that's probably not helping your child.
So like trying to solve a short-term problem without thinking how that will have a lifelong effect.
Right, because you don't want to cripple them. They reach 18, 19, they get out there in the real world, and they just expect everything to be handed to them, or they expect to get what they want, which is just not how life works.
Or you feel like, I've seen even parents sometimes almost even lying to your child because it will be able to solve a situation right away. It'll be like, oh yeah, just, the child is crying when you are leaving to work, and you're like, oh, I'll bring you a toy in the evening. And you either forget or you say it and you don't
have no
mean
intention,
it. So I think we have to be really careful when we do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, parenting is so complex, and every situation is a little bit different. Every child is a little bit different. So obviously these are just our own observations and our own experiences from raising 3 boys so far, but we are definitely still in the thick of it. And so, I think like everything else, there's a balance to it, and learning to take it a day at a time, but also think about a bit of the bigger picture of who you want these kids to become, and kind of keep that in the back of your mind, can help you from just getting sucked into the here and now too much.
And I think like there's always room to get better. Sometimes you try something and you screw up and you feel like the worst parent ever, but I think that should not stop you from trying. And I think that's what I've learned to take one day at a time, and if I don't do well today, I try again tomorrow.
Right, and the thing is, the best part is kids are so forgiving. Like, I mean, you can lose it on your kid, yell, and it can be not even about them, maybe you're stressed. And I mean, like, they are so forgiving and they're so resilient, which I just appreciate so much. And I also think it's fine to apologize to your kids. They need to know that you're not perfect and that everybody has bad days. That's also helping them learn.
But also, like, I'm thinking about that idea of apologizing. Like for me, I grew up in a place where parents don't apologize, because the parents are always right. So even when they know that they actually wronged you as a child, they don't. So like, and I know there are still a lot of parents, even people of my generation, who still feel like children just there to be seen and they're not supposed to have a voice, which can be crippling to a child by itself.
Yeah, so I think we're not perfect, but we attempt to be real with our kids, I think, and to be authentic. And I mean, even to let them know, like sometimes I'll just tell them, guys, mommy is really tired. I had a really long day at work and I don't have any energy left to play tonight, but I'm gonna try again tomorrow. or whatever it is, because whatever the level, they have some understanding.
Yes, yes.
And so trying to explain where you're at instead of just snapping at them or just saying no, give them some credit. They can understand.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a learning lesson for them as well.
Awesome. Yeah, very good stuff. Looking forward to hearing some of the parents who are watching this, what they are doing to raise their children. You know, we can all learn from one another.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So leave some comments, leave some of your wisdom.
Yeah.
And we definitely hope that we will be a little more consistent with you guys and have another video out for you soon. So thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you'd like to hear more from us.